G'day legends, I hope that you're having a really fantastic day and a great weekend wherever you are as well. Now today, as always, we're going to talk about the maps, then we're going to have a look at some ships that have been struck or said to be struck and some footage come out, the grain deals, what's going on there, as well as some new satellite imagery of an S-400 air defense system in Crimea as well. But firstly, I want to speak again about the murder of Jordan Chadwick, a foreign fighter who went to Ukraine to fight, formerly from the Scots Guard. Now, there's been a lot of people come out of the woodwork since I spoke about this last time with some new information, but also some warnings saying that there will be a lot of people try and reach out to me to also cover their own arse. And I've also been heavily criticised for sitting on this for a number of weeks. And I can absolutely see how that looks, but there is certain information that comes across my desk that I have to hang on to and can't make public due to it can be drawn back to individuals. And as you can see what has happened here to Jordan, well, you can see the risks in that for people. So I protect my sources at all costs, regardless of who hits me up, whether it's official, unofficial, it doesn't matter. It's 100% protected as well. So I hope you can see where that has come for me. Once it's become public, then yes, I can go public with information and ask if I can use certain elements that they have told me, but not just everything. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at another rundown that I was sent. And this one actually is more accurately aligns with the other off-the-record talks I've had with other people. So this one seems to line up with more so here. And we're going to look over the Daily Mail bit as well. Actually, let's just quickly look at what they say. So 2 British volunteers in Ukraine may have been murdered by fellow Foreign Legion fighters. Why do you think when I do my interviews with Foreign Legion fighters, I ask about the Legion? People are like, why are you always asking about that? Because maybe I have a little bit more insight into some of this than maybe if you don't follow this as closely. This is the sort of shit why I ask that. 2 British volunteer fighters who fought in Ukraine are feared to have been murdered by their fellow Foreign Legion comrades following alleged disputes over money and petty arguments. Daniel Burke, a former paratrooper who went to Ukraine to fight as a volunteer last year, vanished from his flat in southeastern city of Zap on the August 11th and has not been seen since. And I've been sent some about this as well, but I can't be public. There are now fears that the 36-year-old could have been killed not by Russian soldiers, but by his fellow Foreign Legion fighters because of reported disputes and jealousy over the amount of money he was receiving in donations. Now, further in this argument as well, yours truly, a YouTube channel has claimed the ceremony was devised by a fellow volunteer. So this was off the last statement I got, and a YouTube channel, yours truly, fucking Willie, but no one will ever give credit for that shit. But I've got sent another one. Now, this is the one that more aligns with the off-the-record talks I have had as well. Will, mate, not sure if you remember me. I met you. There will be bits in this taken out. Anywho, the guy found with his arms tied, that was no selection accident. And there's no SAS guy running selection courses for Team 50-50. The last regiment guy, being SAS regiment, Special Air Service, to operate in the Legion, grey team, I know well, and was blown up last June. The guy tied up was tortured, waterboarded, which aligns with everything, no matter variants on stories, for stealing kit. Was known in the Scots Guard as a thief too. Regardless, blokes who steal kit, you bin them and you get them out. You don't murder them. That's what happened. He was waterboarded and killed. The former FFL guy, Hug, who talked about it in the last one as well, is implicated, but it's certainly more involved. Nobody will sit and let someone do that to them without others holding them down. So there's more people than just that involved. The story you were sent, I guarantee, will be what they are trying. Will be what they want to be spun for numerous and obvious reasons, strategy and politically. Selection. Next bit. Selection gone wrong. Death by misadventure. Accident. Here's a medal. Thanks for his heroism. He was tortured and murdered. Stealing? Yep. Kick his ass a bit. Torture and murder? Nope. Not on. It's not 1960s Angola here. Justice must be served. There's far too many clowns running around Ukraine that shouldn't be. Most of whom do it for the attention and then do one. I've just spent the last year training units, and the Legion is despised, and amongst Ukrainians, so is also. In for a minute of glory and go home while the rest stay and fight. Far too many clowns in the Legion who think they are special forces, all of whom wouldn't know a special force if it hit them between the eyes. And we've spoken about all these issues previously in length with many of my interviews of people going, we're not joining the Legion, I'm going to go join a real like Ukrainian actual unit. So these problems seem deep-seated, and I've had many people tell me as well, I'm surprised it has actually taken this long for something like this to have actually happened. So regardless of what happened, whether it was the theft, I've heard drugs, I've heard selection, regardless of what has happened there, we know that a torture and a murder has taken place, and those who are responsible should be brought to justice. I don't care what is going on, should be brought to justice. These guys have gone there to fight, but we also know that there are some very bad eggs, places like that, who have ulterior motive and a lot of raising money, things like this. So if you're ever sending money to, really anywhere, it doesn't matter if it's cancer charities, foreign soldiers, whatever, be fucking careful of where it is actually going to. But again, my condolences for the family of losing a loved one and a son. Now, we'll move on to the normal sort of news. Ukrainian sources are saying that they have taken out an S-400 air defense system in Crimea's Yevpatara. Now, the BBC's intel source is quoted saying, after disabling the radar stations, the Navy units hit the S-300 and S-400 Triumph systems worth $1.2 billion by 2 Neptune missiles. Now, if this is completely destroyed, this is, like they said, a $1.2 billion system. But that's what I've had multiple people say, that these systems are dispersed and it's got multiple radars, launchers, and also control stations, things like this, that they've thrown doubt that 2 missiles could actually take out the entire system just due to the dispersion. Now, it is incredibly embarrassing that these missiles have actually been able to strike this system, but they've said, regardless of that, it probably still hasn't taken out the entire system due to how a Neptune missile works. Something like your ATACMS would be far better for this, who can airburst dispersion on the ground and take out more from there. And let's just have a look over what we're talking about and what I've also been told. So this is a 5-minute video of this in Crimea as well. And I'll post this in the Telegram so you can watch the full thing, because we're not going to have this whole thing. But this is, you can see air defense engaging little bits and pieces, but you'll also then start seeing, you can't see the missiles come in, but then you'll see the aftermath of these. So there are multiple strikes in here, and this little clip, this is the main bit of footage that is then doing the rounds around everywhere. So a rocket has hit this area, and you can see the massive fireball coming up from here. And we'll just skip forward. So they're talking about the amount of rockets, things like this. And there you go. From there, you can see something like cooking off in there as well. But let's have a look at then some satellite imagery. So this is only like an example of how an S-400, like the complete system, is laid out. So you have these like revetments in here. So this is built up. So if this is taken out, it won't trigger take out then everything else, if that makes sense, like having a zigzag trench. So this seems to be, well, this is the area that it was hit off satellite imagery, and this is from a Ukrainian source as well in this area. So we can see here the allegedly destroyed S-400 launcher. So you can see heavy, oh, Jesus, what have I done? Okay, let's close that one. We'll look at that one later. So the heavy damage launch here, but you can see these built up like revetments in here. So one is taken out as well, scorch marks, no visible vehicle destruction, but it could have been dragged off, moved. So these are here. But then we see that these are a known position. So form a known position here, and we can see that vehicles are moving. So they could be packing up and moving then locations as well, that this is now not present, as well as one of the pieces of the whole system, and retreatment of the vehicles moving then out of this system that has been hit successfully with these Neptune missiles. So this does throw some doubt that the entire system, like the whole $1.2 billion piece, was taken out, because these aren't just like when someone says S-400, you'll just see the vehicle with the fucking launchers on the back. That isn't, well, that is a part of the S-400, but it's not everything. There's multiple radars. It's like your Patriot system. So your Patriot is not just the truck with the box in the back of it. There's significantly more in that too. And that piece is probably the bit you actually want to get hit over the radars. Like if it's your system, you don't want the radars, control stations to be hit. You'd rather the missiles, from at least my reading on this as well. But we do know very successful strike there. Even getting into that is very successful, being an S-400 system, one of the most modern air defense systems in the world. Now, also Ukrainian sources are saying they have struck and damaged 3 more ships in Russia's Black Sea fleet. So the catamaran, the Samum, I know that's pronounced wrong, and 2 Vasily Kaikov class patrol ships. And we're going to talk a bit then about this too. So this is the Samum. Now, this is actually a catamaran. Some are saying like a fan boat thing, like a hovercraft. I'm not really sure, but it's like a fast recon ship here too. We know there's 2 of them in the Black Sea fleet, and they're sort of in and out for repairs all the time, looking at then satellite imagery of these 2. But it said that one of these was hit on the rear, and there was an amount of damage, and then 2 of these Vasily Boykov ships here were also struck. We don't know the damage on these. As we know with all of this, footage tends to come out pretty quick, so we'll see what actually then comes out. But the damage so far is unknown. But this was from a Ukrainian paper, the News Report, September 14th, the SBU experimental sea drone, the Sea Baby, which we've talked about before, a lot of bang in that, hit the missile ship of Russia's aggressor country, Samum, this one, near the entrance of Sevastopol Bay. The ship lost speed, according to the sources. According to sources, the drone hit the rear right part of the ship and caused significant damage to it. Samum lost speed. The occupiers were forced to tow it for repairs with a large differential to stern on roll to starboard. So that is what's being there as well. Then we have here, the morning of September 14th, the Defence Forces struck 2 patrol ships, the project type Vasily Boykov, in occupation fleet of Russia in the southwestern part of the Black Sea. There is some damage, and this was from the intelligence and what are they called? Like strategy agency of Ukraine was put that out as well too. So we do actually have some footage as well. Said to be the Vasily Boykov one of them that was struck, and this is said to be off the Sea Baby drone released by United 24 Media, who's a thing from Ukraine by President Zelensky as well. So you can see it being heavily engaged here, but there's a few things I want to look at here. As you can see multiple times, so this is this ship here, but turned the other way. Like imagine if that ship was mirrored. So this is the main gun, this is the main gun, and of course then the bloody bridge, whatever. You can see them engaging this Sea Baby drone, and you can also see them in that gun engaging another, like straight onto the hull of the vehicle as well, so of the ship. So there are multiple drones working in this, and we know this is what they have to do. They have to work in packets of these drones. So let's continue. Let's continue here. So you'll see it engaging off the front, and you'll see a lot of trace and bullets coming into this drone as well. There. See them, yep, engaging from small arms, and that's where the video cuts out, and it still seems a long way off. So I'm thinking it was engaged at that point. And then there's this last bit of footage here that is apparently shows it being hit. But I've watched this a million times and I can't really make it out. It seems like the lights flicker on and off, and it was said that that was the strike. But I've watched this last bit and I just really don't know where it's hit. Maybe it's exploded pre the ship, what initiated the charge early, and it hasn't done too much damage. We don't really know, but we do know that footage has also come out of the ships also in the dry dock, being the Minsk landing craft and as well as the Kilo class submarine for the Russian forces. And like we spoke about, although the landing craft may be the one where sort of people are speaking of the most, it's probably the least important in there. The submarine's incredibly important. The dry dock, even more important. If these ships were significantly damaged last night and need to go into dry dock, well, that dry dock now has 2 bloody watercraft in it, significant ones, sitting there. So let's see, firstly, the footage of the Minsk landing craft that has come out. You can see that the whole top has been really burnt out. Now, some people said the damage doesn't look that bad. I'm no ship expert, and I'm going to guess neither are you, but I have said, people say, yeah, it doesn't look that bad, but if the steel on the hull is buckled, which people say it appears to be, that ship is like XX, that's gone from there. Then it won't be seaworthy ever again. So we're not too sure. We don't unless you know steel and ships, I guess. But let's look what then the British MOD has said about this. In the early hours of 13th September 23, multiple missiles struck the Sevastopol, that shipyard within Russia's Black Sea Fleet, Sevastopol Navy base. The landing ship Minsk and Kilo 636.3 class submarine Rostov-na-Donu were hit while undergoing maintenance in dry docks. Despite the Russian Ministry of Defense downplaying the damage to the vessels, open source evidence indicates the Minsk has almost certainly been functionally destroyed, while the Rostov has likely suffered catastrophic damage. Any efforts to return the submarine to service is likely to take many years and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. There is a realistic possibility that the complex task of removing the wreckage from the dry docks will place them out of use for many months. We spoke about this last time. You've now got fucking ships sitting in there. How do you actually get them back out if they then can't float? This would present the BSF, the Black Sea Fleet, with a significant challenge in sustaining fleet maintenance. The loss of the Rostov removes one of the Black Sea Fleet's 4 cruise missile-capable submarines, which have played a major role in striking Ukraine and projecting Russian power across the Black Sea and Eastern Mediterranean. We know Russia has a lot of submarines, but you can't just move more submarines also into the Black Sea through the Bosphorus as well. So Russia may have to move these now up through this inland seas, significantly slower way. But it is very obvious that Ukraine is trying to reduce Russia's dominance in the Black Sea and limit the ability for these ships to have involvement in the battlefield, as well as it ties up further resources then to protect these ships and these harbours, your air defence, soldiers, choppers, all of that, fighter jets as well. And once these modern fighters, your F-16s, come into play, it will be very likely that these will be the primary targets. It doesn't just mean taking these out, it means denying them use. And that is one of the things that if you can just deny the use of something like this, well, it's got the equivalent of sinking it, if that makes sense. So if they just can't move it from a port up somewhere else, it basically has the same effect in the war that it's now not there too. So let's have a quick look then at the grain deals. We know it has I shouldn't say the ban on the grain. They've just let it expire, but other countries have taken on themselves to put in place as well. Now, the countries we're talking about are really the ones that border with Ukraine as well. Of course, we have Ukraine here, but let's have a look over this. So I think this was from Reuters, that Poland, Slovakia and Hungary will impose their own restrictions on Ukrainian grain imports. The government said after the European Commission decided not to extend a ban affecting Ukraine's 5 EU neighbours. Restrictions imposed by the EU in May allowed Poland, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania and Slovakia to ban domestic sales of Ukrainian wheat, maize, rapeseed and sunflower seeds while permitting transit of such cargoes for export elsewhere. So they could move through but can't sell there to try and protect then the local industry. And we've seen a lot of farmers jump up and down about this. We will extend this ban despite the disagreement, despite the European Commission's disagreement. So this was from Poland, told at a rally in the northeastern town of Elk on Friday. We will do it because it has we will do it. It is in the interest of the Polish farmer. So trying to protect their farms there. Now, Romania isn't really going against it like Poland, Slovakia or Hungary, but they have made their own piece about this too. So Romania's government, which is unlike its peers, did not unilaterally enforce a ban before May, said on Friday it regretted that the European solution to extend the ban could not be found, so couldn't extend it. So they're still concerned in it too, but not doing the same amount. Romania sees 60% of alternate flows pass through its territory, mainly through the Danube River, and its farmers have threatened protests if the ban is not extended. So where we're talking about is if we come right down into where then Ukraine and Romania then border. So we're coming down into here. We then do see this is the Danube River through here. So extends out. This is the border line through here. So that's how they're getting a lot of the grain out now, well, when the Black Sea was doing a lot less transit through there as well. Now, let's have a look back. We've done all these bits. Now let's have a look at the maps and see what has changed. So of course, we have Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv, red areas occupied since 22, purple since 14, and of course this being Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk. Down here we have Poland, Romania, Belarus, and Russia around here. Now where we're going to go is right down to the far west, now down near Ochakiv here. There has been some footage come out which does show us some interesting bits. So we saw this bit of footage come out here. So this is actually of let's get rid of this shitty Screamo. It's not even Screamo, it's just like random something's made on GarageBand. So you see this tower here, but this is filming a Russian drone. This is Ukrainian held. I'm calling this the knife and fork drone. No idea why these are on the front. It might just extend its peak so it hits and explodes if it doesn't quite grab something too. And has hit there and has taken out that. But that's from a Russian drone. Now, where this lines up is, Suryak says here, recent footage shows Russian army attacking Ukrainian positions at Pervomaysky, which confirms Ukrainian army is in control of this island. Important to note that Pervomaysky is key point in Dnipro Liman for an hypothetical and future landing operation to the Kinburn Spit. So this area here, this is the little island in here. So this is the island, and this is then the Kinburn Spit of land that lead down, of course, into then the Kherson Oblast, maybe in through Crimea there. Now, we haven't seen any other movement up through this whole southern region, but I am going to speak on this tomorrow, as I've thought about something with another guy. Well, he sort of hinted me onto it, and I've been thinking about it. I'm like, holy shit. So we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. I might even do it first, so you don't have to sit through 20 minutes of my shit talking. Now, what changes we've seen in the Orokiv area in the last couple of days? Really not anything at all. So the green just means it's been held for longer than 2 weeks. So there's no real change in there for a couple of weeks. But what we're going to do, a couple of days, not a couple of weeks. It's been significant change in a few weeks. But we're going to have a look over some different maps and compare these two. So this is Robertini today. And this was Robertini then 5 days ago, so on this same front. So you can see just to the south of Robertini where has been pushed just then past these defensive works in here as well, but not too much other differences in the other areas. This, of course, was captured on that day. So, of course, has moved very slowly here. Now, a lot did say, someone including myself, once we break through some of these lines, once Ukraine break through, we'll start seeing things move quicker. And like with a lot of this, it seems to have fast, slow. So we will see what happens there in the next coming weeks as well. So then we're going to continue moving to the east, and we're going to stop here in Prudotiny. Now, we don't see any change on this map or the daily Ukraine map update in this region either, but we do have this from Suryak Maps to say Ukrainian-Russian war, day 5, 6, 7. Situation southwest of Donetsk. Ukrainian army managed to recapture again a series of positions north of Prudotiny in here. So a number of positions there taken up as well. But no other change shown on these maps. But if we then look just to then the east of here, the Novodonetsky, we don't see a change on this map. But then we swing down onto the daily Ukraine map update, same area. This is where we're talking Novodonetsky, Novomorsky. We do see that Ukraine did get a bit of Russian ground here. Now, this is significant because it's crossed the river in here. So let's have a look at this. Situation southwest of Donetsk. After 4 days of combat, Ukrainian army managed to consolidate more positions in the grey zone and crossed again the Shatanka River, taking control over positions northwest of Novomorsky, but hasn't reached again the buildings of the town yet. So this area we have seen be fairly fluid in here, but have made crossings in here and are on then the outskirts of this town. What is very interesting of how this is then actually going to maybe take place over the next coming weeks. Now, we're going to move up further to the northeast. We haven't seen any changes through Mariinka. We haven't seen any in Opitny, where we did see a lot of back and forward. Nothing in Vesely either. But we come up then into Bakhmut, and this is where we do see the main changes we're speaking of today. Now, there hasn't been anything in the north near Berkivka either, but is Andrivka. Now, before we speak about the changes there, we do have footage of Andrivka here. Now, this is what used to be Andrivka, and as you can see, just completely flattened. When we're speaking about people saying Ukraine will occupy it, well, there's nothing really then to occupy here. They want to really continue moving forward and take up positions. This isn't a place then to fight out of. So this has been completely very flattened. So let's zoom in a little bit, and we'll go back day and then back to when I last spoke to you. So you saw that Andrivka was still being held, those few streets, a very small area, Andrivka, and then has pulled that back and then pulled back then across. Then this is the train line that we know Ukraine was really pushing for, then that train line. Now, this is also backed up by the ISW. Does show Ukraine Defence Sources report on 15 that Ukraine forces captured Andrivka as of September the 14th, this area in here. Now, let's have a look over Suryak axis situated south of Bakhmut. Ukrainian troops deployed in the axis, showing a recent image of Andrivka, the image I showed you. The town is completely destroyed, and despite Russian troops retreated from it, Ukrainian army couldn't deploy inside the locality, and is currently trying to establish in the railway and surpass the settlement. So, like I said, need to surpass the settlement. It's not a liberated settlement, like it's just completely flattened, and make up positions then on this railway then as shown there. Now we are going to move just to the north in then Klishkivka. We know there's a lot of fighting going on here as well, but not shown on any of the other maps, but this is then what Suryak says. So Russian army is trying to retake the town of Klishkivka, but couldn't consolidate any gain and has had to withdraw again towards the railway. Meanwhile, Ukrainian army is slowly entering in the last part of the town, but still faces many difficulties to complete retaking it. Russian forces won't give up the fight for Klishkivka easier. We know Klishkivka just here, so Russian forces are still on the outskirt on then this railway here, which, let's look at Klishkivka. If we actually get the satellite view up, it might be a little bit easier for us, to see then the railway. So of course this is then the railway, so right on the outskirts here, tried to retake, but Ukraine continually pushing back in here, and these two maps are fairly close. Now I don't have any Rybar Russian sources maps of this area either. Now the one place we have seen a very interesting change is up here near Bilorivka. So this is seen across then both maps. So let's go back to then the beginning update of the 13th. So this is how this area had sat. We had heard that Russia, was pushing fairly hard in Bilorivka. Now we skip forward 14th, 15th. We do see a major step up there. That is a lot of ground considering the little bits of ground we have been seeing taken over the past couple of weeks in this grinding war of attrition. Now let's jump then onto the daily Ukraine map update, and of course we've got Andrivka, Bakhmut, and then this red area here. And this was the area that Russia has taken over the past few days. So the 13th to the 14th managed to take this area, and then 14th to 15th more area there. So that is actually a significant gain right there. Now let's look at then what Suryak maps shows. Now I think Suryak maybe shows just a little bit less, but situation on the eastern front, Russian army managed to make new advances west of Bilorivka and is slowly approaching Vasily from the east, 1 kilometer from the town from this axis. So this is of course Vasily in here. Now let's have a look and see where these then line up. So Vasily, we have these two paddocks here. These are these paddocks. You see this one is this one. So I actually believe this map on the deep state is showing a lot more ground being taken by the Russian forces than the Suryak maps is showing. But this is why, again, this is why we look over multiple different sources of these maps. Now, the last place we are going to look is we're just going to move a little bit further to the north and talk about this area near Svatov called Ryhodka as well. Now, we haven't seen any actually changes up here, but still very interesting. As we know, Russia is pushing very hard near Svatov. So, of course, this is Svatov, Novodonany, and, of course, then we have Ryhodka. Now, we have seen Russia has made a lot of ground over the past, say, month in and around this area out to, the west of Svatov. Now, of course, we don't see any change in this map. We don't see it on the daily Ukraine map map update either. Can't talk, but this is what ISW gave us. So it did say that Russia had an advancement to the west of this river here, across here from Ryhodka as well. So continuing that push out there, but to line these up is very difficult with just how the deep state and these maps work. But I think the deep state is showing that Russia do have more control in this area, especially around Cherkivka here, than the ISW. But it is showing that there is movement there. ISW is very, very conservative on a lot of gains. But up and down the front line, no other real major changes than those that we spoke about. But legends, thanks very much again. I really appreciate your time. If you'd like to support me further, there's links down below, and it really does help me out. But thank you very much. Have a great end to your weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye.